The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by HotMovies.com. Try out some ethical, paid-for porn for free with none of those hidden fees or secret subscriptions when you sign up at HotMovies.com and use the promo code MANWHORE. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all those OG whoreheads, longtime lusters, and newly infatuated fan whores. This is Billy Persida, and this is episode 300 of the Man Whore Podcast. And this week on the pod, we have got on author Lindsay Goldwert, who has a book out now called Bow Down, Lessons from Dominatrixes on How to Get Everything You Want. And as someone who has been self-actualizing some stuff for the last 300 Wednesdays in a row, I could really connect with this one. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it too. But first, show dates, people, show dates. Okay, I am hitting the road soon, everybody, so start paying attention to this portion. Tonight, actually, January 8th, Trenton, New Jersey, I'm at NJ Weedman's Joint at 9 p.m., I'm assuming it's a weed joint. January 15th is my last New York City spot in Harlem at Sylvana's at 8 o'clock. Then Pittsburgh, January 18th, I'm at Mount Troy Inn. Los Angeles, January 28th, I'm at Larry's. And January 29th, I'm at the Sycamore Tavern. And Yakima, Washington, February 8th, I'm at Bill's Place. I'm going to be featuring over there. So I'm going to be getting around. I'll have some more dates to announce soon. The best way to stay up to date with all the latest Man Whore Podcast news so you don't miss me when I come through a town near you is by getting on the mailing list. So go to manwhorepod.com, sign up for the mailing list, put in your zip code. That way, if you fall behind on episodes, you're not going to miss me when I pass through your section of the dumpster fire that is this country. But wow, 300 episodes. 300 episodes is nuts, and I know a lot of you have binged through most of these, but did you know that there are nearly 200 bonus episodes available exclusively on Patreon? Did you like that seamless transition? Yes, we've got nearly 200 bonus episodes available on Patreon. Most of them are all available at the $5 and up level. Most of the time, it's extra conversation with that week's guest. Like tomorrow, I've got a bonus episode coming out with Lindsay Goldwert. Sometimes it's a totally different person that I bring in. Like I just literally a couple hours ago finished recording with Simone van Sarloos. Damn those Dutch names. I have a hard time saying them. That one's only going to be available on Patreon. And then also we've got some free bonus episodes. Yeah, for free. Anyone can go listen to them, but only on Patreon. We've got Nina Hartley talking about beta men and alpha gals. We've got Andrea Allen giving me a quiz to find out if I'm a sex addict. And we've even got my 7th grade crush. So all of that is available exclusively at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Joining doesn't just give you access to a bunch of exclusive bonus content and sex-positive discussion groups, but you also get the peace of mind knowing that you are supporting independent content creators, and so that I can continue to do what I'm doing. So again, become a member today. Do the right thing. Enjoy some killer bonus episodes at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now it's time for the fan whore appreciation moment. We'll do that real quick. Okay. This is the part of the show where I like to give a shout out to a few of the members of my fan whore community on Patreon. Want to start off with, oh my gosh, she's an OG fan whore, Megan Smith. She actually was a patron, then she left, and now she's back again, and we're so excited to have you there. It felt like a pillar of the community was missing, and now that foundation is back there, making us stronger than ever. Welcome back, Megan. Shout out to Simple Creations. I think you make jewelry, but hey, I think you're quite the gem. for pledging. Way to go. Shout out to Fox Confessor, who confessed his real Foxy name to me. It's apparently a fellow comedian. And, well, you've seen my dick, dude. I hope you're happy. I'll see you at an open mic soon. But thanks so much. And a shout out to Lucy Moon, who is, holy shit, a total hottie. Oh my God. She's one of those OnlyFans cam girls, shoots her own clips. She's a professional hot chick on the internet. I'm into it. I'm glad she's into this, and you should all go be into her. So go look her up. It's Lucy, Lucee, Moon. Yeah. All right, now it's time to play Cast That Porn, brought to you by HotMovies.com. HotMovies.com is, of course, a pay-per-minute porn site, which makes it both an ethical and affordable way to hashtag pay for some of your porn. And here to play Cast That Porn this week, we've got fellow stand-up comedian and actor John Savoy.
Hi, everybody.
What's going on, sir?
Sorry, I was distracted by something on the screen.
Something on the screen.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming to my room to stare at porn with me.
Well, yeah, thanks for putting it like that after I'm already in your apartment.
Good. I wanted to make it as uncomfortable as possible.
Fantastic.
Well, this week we're going to be checking out The Audition, Volume 7. In the description, there's really not much of one. It's really... they just have the names of the 3 women auditioning and like a one-liner. So it's like Dakota Blue, little blonde girl next door type, or Jade Cush. The audition isn't hard. Just spread your legs.
That's, yeah.
Which I like to think porn is a little more difficult than that.
Well, then it's rough. Then you get out of the audition. Then the whole way down in the elevator, you're just spreading your legs again. It's like, no, it's too late. I already did it. That was it.
Oh.
You don't get another take in the elevator.
If I just opened the left one up a little wider, maybe that would have gone. Well, which clip are we going to take a look at first?
Oh, so many clips.
We got one with Jade Cush, Dakota Blue, Aurora Winters, or Paisley Ray. Of course, it's not going to be any of those women once you're done with this thing.
I mean, clip 2 seems special, or it's the hot clip.
It's the hot clip.
Let's see who's in the hot clip in the audition.
So we got a couple cute blondes getting into a car. I guess going to their audition.
Yeah, the one riding shotgun looks like the auditioner.
Yeah.
She's nervous. She's got an older lady with her. Seems
maybe her manager.
See, I saw this kind of going down as just having really seasoned actresses coming in and playing these auditioning women. Like, for this blonde girl, maybe like a Meryl Streep. Like a real seasoned, You're
not thinking newcomers. You're thinking like high-end talent.
Yeah, I want to see what they do with being, the bashful fledgling, first-timer, so to speak.
Imagine Meryl Streep being a bashful first-timer. It's those Oscars, ignore them. They're not there.
She was banging John Cazale, man. I mean, she's on it. She's good.
And who do you think would be what seems to be the manager here, or her handler? In porn, I don't ever know exactly what to call them.
I don't know. What's the name of that mother from Modern Family? She kind of...
Sofia Vergara?
Sofia Vergara, yes. Like hot, older, huge bitch when she came into my restaurant.
Well, now we got to pick. Wait,
yeah, everything is
pixelated?
Perfect. She just said everything is perfect. Yeah, definitely not Sofia Vergara, especially if it's her chicken paillard, which is no good. It's not flat enough. I don't know what the fuck her problem was.
Yeah. Do you think Sofia Vergara is just like silently judging off camera? Being like, we practiced that look in the car. You're not nailing it right now.
If we're keeping it classic, I figure you want a stronger matronly. You want Judi Dench in there. You want Judi Dench to be, bringing the young fledgling or fuckling or whatever your, however you'd connote that, the auditioner.
Sounds like it.
Who do you think she's auditioning for? Who's holding the camera? Who's the guy we're auditioning for?
Who was the guy in Road Trip who liked touching the feet?
Yeah.
Well, Marilyn's ready for a BJ, apparently.
Okay. You always slate before a blowjob. What the hell?
No slate.
Yeah.
No professionalism.
You got to
there.
say your name clearly, you know? Who are you reading for? Representation. I need to. It's usually easier to say your manager's name with your dick in your mouth.
What does your manager's name sound like with
And
it in the
you
mouth?
just have to let 10% dribble down your chin.
Well,
10% if you're lucky.
Meryl Streep, she's giving BJ, and just some really mediocre fucking.
They're not going to give her notes through the whole audition? I mean, I guess slapping you in the twat, that's a note. It's a strong expression of an opinion, I think.
Well, I'm curious. Do you think the people you've recast for this porno for Audition Volume 7, do you think they do a hotter job than whoever Dakota Blue is right now?
Thought-provoking, yeah. I mean, hotter, too, you know? I mean, there's not a lot of passion here. There's just, you know... I feel like she's phoning it in. She's kind of showing up.
She thinks she's better than this gig?
Yeah. I feel like, you know, maybe she gets typecast, you know, she kind of looks natural with that dick in her mouth. It's just her comfort zone, I guess.
All right. Well, John, thank you for helping us play Cast That Porn.
Hey, absolutely.
Of course, everybody, hotmovies.com, they want to hook up my listeners with 20 free minutes on top of any package you sign up for. All you got to do is use promo code MANWHORE at hotmovies.com. John Savoy, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at John Savoy, I swear, no H in John. And I'm going to murder the guy who's got just at John Savoy. At John Savoy on Instagram. And then... yeah.
Sounds good, man. Thanks again. And everybody, again, one more time, hotmovies.com, promo code MANWHORE. Mr. Savoy, why don't you say goodbye to everybody? Give me your best goodbye take.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night or day or whenever you're listening to this, right? It could be anytime.
And now for this week's guest, Lindsay Goldwert. I had such a blast chatting with this woman. She has a book out. It's coming out next week, is called Bow Down, Lessons from Dominatrixes on How to Get Everything You Want. Very captivating. I can't wait to read the book, and I hope we'll all enjoy my 300th on-air conversation with Lindsay Goldwert.
Mind at the moment, and so here, let me know what you think is interesting. So I have been writing a lot about not FinDom, but about money and power.
Sex
dynamics.
and money, yeah.
Sex and money. So I've been thinking a lot about that. Thinking a lot about sort of, you know, the ladies didn't teach me so much about like how to like dominate your finances, but they were so inspiring to me, and I was like, their ethos inspired me to do a million things. So it actually got me thinking a lot about all the ways that I want to kind of, not in a self-help way, but kind of like dom my own life, you know, in a way that sounds very corny, but it's actually changed my life in a pretty big way.
Yeah.
So I can talk about, I could talk. So that's on my mind. Body image stuff is sort of on my mind. I could talk about like my own sex stuff, you know, whatever. But
What's on your mind with the body stuff?
So are we?
Yeah, I mean, we are or we aren't. It depends where I fade in.
So it was really interesting. So I always struggle.
Hey, you.
No, it's not going to happen. You're going to be quiet.
You gonna be quiet for us? You gonna be a cute kitty? Be quiet.
An asshole. No, piece of shit.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You were saying?
So my whole life, I'd struggled with my weight. You know, a lot of us do. You know, and then for some reason this year, as I was talking to the Dom, I just started thinking a lot about the idea of like kind of living defensively. Like I would get sad, so I would eat. You know, I get sad, so you shop. I was thinking about all the things I do that are destructive, that I don't control. When people think of control and like power, they think of all these terrible things, especially if you're a woman. But I don't know, there's something about this year and just saying like, no, like instead of just reframing it, it's like, no, instead of, you know, oh, I should be thin or like, or why can't I be thinner? Or like, why can't I be healthier? What's wrong with me? I started framing it. It's like, you know, why do I think I deserve to eat shit? Like, why do I think Like, and what is that about? And so doing sort of deeper, it wasn't really like to stop digging into the shame pile and digging more into like past history pile. And it made the conversation in my head a lot more easy to understand. And I ended up sort of like, so I went on, I'm not promoting them, but I ended up going on Weight Watchers and kind of attacking it from like an AA perspective. This whole idea of like, it's hard, it's discipline, this is something you've struggled with your whole life. But there was something about talking to the women in the book, talking to the doms about the idea of taking control, but in this way that wasn't like awful and self-helpy and like people working out in spandex, or those awful like TED Talk people, like take control of your life. It's like none of that ever resonated with me.
It's also vague in general. Like none of it's like specific. Like tell me how do I do that?
And
we all
it?
know take control of your life. How do I do it?
I don't know. And the thing is, you never know what kind of ethos is going to be the one that resonates with you. I was a journalist I am a journalist, but for years I worked in the newsroom. I worked in a million different places, breaking news, ABC, CBS. I've been surrounded by really smart people and read a million books. And yet the only ethoses that really resonated with me were hang out with stand-up comedians and hang out with kinky people and sex workers. And I think that it just goes to show that you never know where you're going to find things that click with you. Yeah. Oh, that's not too surprising. I mean, these are things I've always been interested in. So that's been an interesting thing that like, I wouldn't say, I wrote this book and I lost weight. It was more like I wrote this book and I started really thinking about all the ways that I allow myself to feel powerless and kind of, let myself sort of wallow in it as opposed, so it was just more of a way of changing why I was, allowing myself to feel so shitty all the time.
Yeah. I also just, when you said like, why do I let myself eat shit? I've never, or as much as I love what Domino's tastes like, I've never ordered it and at the end of the experience felt good. Never have I eaten it and be like, that was a great decision. It's never happened.
No, it's about like hurting yourself with food. It's like food, but it's funny. Like I don't know, all these things, I think I know about like, it's not even like a masochism, sadism thing, but there was a way where I couldn't even, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't even want to eat good food. I would only eat like bodega food. Like I would only eat food like in wrappers. Not that I was, I just wanted my to eat like how I felt, and I always felt about, I don't know. I also, something's wrong with me. Why can't I just be like other people? And I just needed this. It's also by getting older, which is pretty cool. I don't know, something about this year and just kind of asking myself why a lot, and I think kinky people and the people I met, and people who have fetishes and people who want to care more about, exploring their lives and living authentically, they ask why a lot. And I think, and you can ask why you like to fuck a certain way, or you can ask why you allow yourself to be treated a certain way. And it was just a big year of thinking. So I don't know, for some reason, everything kind of clicked with me when I started talking to them. They really had a way of looking at life that made a lot of sense to me.
This year I was doing the asking why, but not with food, but specifically with sex. Like, why am I applying to this Reddit ad? Why am I going to go to this sex party? Why am I opening Tinder right now?
Interesting.
It was like, do I actually want to get laid? Am I actually horny right now? Or am I just seeking a buzz in my brain for a moment?
I can relate to that in a pretty big way. Do you think it's a sex addiction issue, or it's just like a desire for dopamine and connection issue?
Yeah, I think it's a dopamine thing, because if it's not that, then it might be gambling, or it's going to be food, or it's going to be getting into a fight on Twitter.
Oh, I remember when you and I remember a conversation you and I had. It was at, oh my goodness, we were at for some reason I was at a comedy roast battle, and you were taking bets on who would win.
Yeah, I was the Comedy Fight Club bookie.
You were the bookie, and I always bet on all the women, and I did okay that night. I remember that. That was very funny. But that's interesting too. I mean, for me, it's the same thing. As someone who I talk pretty openly about. I struggle with depression and various things. Since I was a kid. And I do think that all these things, they do give you a jolt. Like. Everyone knows this. Like someone likes your tweet. You one click buy something on Amazon. You unwrap a cookie. All these things give you that real feeling, and you're not wrong to feel that pleasure. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling it. It's just supposed to, then it's like, then what? And that's the question: is how many times can you hit those buttons before you realize that you're just sort of pasting over a larger problem? Because dealing with a larger problem is no fun. Yeah. It's really hard. That's the stuff that for some reason I found that, the women I spoke to in the book, the doms, they were just such, I call them like empathy athletes, They were such like, just given so much thought to what they do and into how people interact with each other, and to the ways people are honest with themselves and each other, that there was something about that just really resonated with me. And I started asking myself why, and making a lot of really hard choices and decisions, and really doing the work, as they say. And it's been hard. It's easier to just binge eat. It's easier to just like, whatever, just like flirt with. It's just easier to just do all these things to distract yourself from all the things that are hard in your life. And I have a lot of empathy for people. And I found that the dominatrixes, the idea that empathy is so important and trying to relate to people, that that also meant a lot to me as well.
Yeah. Well, I want to say real quick, we're here right now with a fellow comedian and author, Lindsay Goldwert.
And also, my cat is curled up in your lap.
Yeah, your cat's behaving.
He's a slut for love.
Yeah, if he'll keep him quiet, I can pet.
Yeah, or he'll just come and go. But I think you just let him go. You don't have to keep petting him that way if you don't feel like it.
So doing the Weight Watchers helped with your relationship with the food or with your body, or
just like me? It's just Weight Watchers is interesting because it's just so sensible and sickening. Like it's just, you just eat sensibly, and you just have to you have to face it. You have to write down what you eat, and there's nothing more horror than, it's so much easier to live in a fantasy world when you don't write down what you eat.
It's like to live in a fantasy world where you don't realize that a serving size of peanut butter is 2 tablespoons, and you're like, wait, what?
But it's just endless reality. It's endless. It's every day is an endless confrontation with reality, which is no fun and is hard. But if you do live in a world of kind of magical realism, this is going to make me feel better, or if I eat this standing up, it doesn't count, or if I do, we all have these magical rules we make that, like, if I do this X way, then it won't count. It's good. It's like that. It's very, it's hard. But that was just one thing. I don't know. But in terms of, I just started thinking a lot about, I don't know. It was writing about kink at my age, at 40 was really fun to re-examine all the ways that, because I've been married for a long time. Who was I before? And who am I now? Like, I think that's an interesting. So being my age, I think the age between 38 and whatever, every age is interesting. But, being the age I am, you really are sort of doing a big retrospective on, because this is such a great time, like you're smartest, you're cutest, you're making the most money, like it's a good time in a woman's life. So a lot of women I know are sort of figuring out, like, if I still want to be married to that person? Do I still want the same job? Do I still want to live here? Like, who am I the person I want to be? And it was an interesting time. It was an interesting time to write this book during this time in my life when I was in a lot of, questioning of myself.
Well, so the book Bow Down, where you talk to a bunch of dominatrixes, right? Yes.
So Bow Down, I interviewed a bunch of amazing dominatrixes from all over the country about power dynamics and how to get what you want. Mm-hmm. And initially, the idea was that it would be more of a workbook, like how to get what you want in the workplace. But as I was writing the book, I got the book deal pretty quickly, and I kind of had to write it while editing and running. I just found myself being much more interested in more the relationship aspect of it, and relationships to ourselves and others. Mm-hmm. Instead of just like, this is how you ask for a raise, this is how you do this.
So was talking to these women like a lot of more. I don't know why I just had a brain fart. I had a fully formed question in my head, and then it just didn't come with me.
So I wanted to use ultimately kind of a lot of the ethos of BDSM as sort of a way to examine your own life. I thought, the tenets of consent, negotiation, respect, communication, safe words. I thought all these ways were just were just interesting ways to view everything you do in your life, and how we deserve to be treated, how we should treat each other. And it just made life a more interesting place for me to examine at the time. So as I was writing the book, it started off as a workbook, and there is some work stuff in there for sure. But I was just started asking the Doms questions that I had about myself and my own life. So everything in the book is very much from the heart and from my own experience.
When you go that level deeper, it just gets like to be a more fulfilling, better piece of whatever you're making, whether it's a book. When I talk to the porn stars who has a podcast, like it's not about like, who cares about the double anal? Like, what we want to learn about you. So not asking that's what I was getting at, was not asking them like, oh, how do you do X, Y, and Z? But it's like, how do you become the type of person who can ask for, do X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. And that's always been my thing too. People just go on YouTube for a tutorial. Same thing when you interview, like a porn star. People can just Google you if they want to see, the films you do or the acts you perform on camera. That's not interesting to me.
Right.
And for the Doms that I spoke to, I don't know if so. I mean, I think they're used to being asked these questions. I don't think they like a journalist has ever like asked them so many questions about their feelings and their philosophy and power and getting what you want. But in this sort of in this much more I don't know, it's more emotional, philosophical way, you know, and coming at it from the place that no one ever really gets what they want, but you can come close, and you can no one ever gets what they want completely all the time. But if you don't ask, then you'll never get, and how some people just never know what to ask for.
What made you even want to do this book? Like, where's that thought come from?
Okay, this is funny.
Because you're a comedian, but you were like a finance writer.
So here's my story. So I was I did stand up comedy in my very early 20s, and then I stopped, and I always regretted it. I worked in news for a long time, and then in my mid 30s, I just had this moment where I decided I was pretty sure I didn't want to have kids, or I was on a break from thinking about kids, and I just I just gotten some medical news, some good medical news. My family has a breast cancer gene. I'm Jewish, and I don't have it, but other people in my family do. So I really had this moment of like, you know, I need to seize the day, like right this minute. So I just turned to my husband on the couch and I said, I'm going to start doing stand up. And he said, like, okay. And I said, no, now. And I left and I got up and I just like went to like the world's worst mic.
Which world's worst mic?
I went to like a mic at the Creek in the Cave.
Yeah.
But I went, I just did I probably look like someone's teacher. But I just started and I did it like nonstop for like around 5 years. I was very lucky, and I had a show in Sunnyside, Queens that did pretty well, and I got booked on a lot of nice stuff. And then I did a podcast called Spent, where I interviewed comedians and writers and economists about money and their money mistakes and their money fuck ups. Mm-hmm. And that was really fun, and that did well. And but then I had life is hard. You know, I was away a lot, and my husband was like, when are you ever going to come home? And I was like, I don't want to come home. I like what I'm doing. But were you touring, or you mean like out and about? I was always out at night. I was out during the day. I just, my husband's an early bird. You know, he's a productive, get up early, early to bed, early to rise kind of guy. And I had to sort of take a break from comedy to kind of figure out, I had to do some rethinking. So I've taken a break from stand up.
Rethinking of career or its effects on the relationship, or
yeah, I just had to be like, well, how I had to just figure out like who am I and what's important to me, and I don't want to like let my marriage fall apart, but I also like need to be myself. I also need to make money. So it was many things were happening, or in 2017. In 2018, where I was doing a lot of like deep thinking, and then I had the chance to pitch an idea to somebody at Simon & Schuster, and they were interested in a personal finance idea. And I like personal finance, but I'm not an expert in the way that other people are experts. But so I've always been fascinated with dominatrixes. I've always been fascinated with kink and sex work and all that stuff. And when I was a kid, I used to actually draw dominatrixes.
How did you know what they are?
I guess I watched a lot of cable as a child, but when I went home for the holidays for Thanksgiving, I looked through some old sketchbooks of mine, and there's tons of pictures of women in like fishnet stockings.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know. And also, I think my mom had a Fredericks from Hollywood catalog come to the house that I may have like this lingerie catalog that may have like imprinted on me at a young age. I've always been so.
Were you a dress-up-y kid?
Yeah, I was a dress-up kid in a big way. So I don't know. I think that a few things kind of came to mind where I got this idea, and I pitched it cold to this editor at Simon & Schuster. And then when it happened, I said, oh shit, now I have to go talk to some people. But I was so excited because I'm an interviewer. That's all I ever want to do. So I ended up getting in touch with this dominatrix named Simone Justice. Mm-hmm. I was going to take a class of hers just to, learn skills and also to meet her.
But and what was the pitch?
The pitch was the name of the book. I came up with it in 5 minutes and threw it together. It was literally the pitch is the book. It was just, I interview renowned dominatrixes to teach you how to get what you want in the bedroom and the boardroom.
And how was the pitch was just instantly received? Because I feel like pitch and sex stuff, I feel like there might be like extra strings or finesse that's required.
Well, I think because I have a business and work background, and I have a reporting background, I think that they gave me a little more leeway.
But isn't that wild that if like a dominatrix came with the same book pitch, they'd be like, I will know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely true. I think that yes, that's a whole other topic. there's a few doms out there who have really incredible book ideas and incredible ideas, and it's you need to find people to align with. There's a few of the doms I've met for the book that I would love to continue working on projects with, to sort of just say that. But yeah, I mean, if you have a really big audience, anyone can publish a book on anything. Sure. If you have a platform, you could and you can write pretty decently, then anyone can write.
Even if you can't write pretty decently.
Yes, even if you can't write pretty decently, someone will rewrite the book for you. Anyway. So that was the story. I just I came up with this idea, and I reached out to Simone. Her class was canceled, but I reached out to her, and I just sort of threw myself at her on the phone saying, this is the book I want to do. It's about philosophy. It's about kindness and empathy. It's not a gotcha book. It's not sleazy in that way. And she took a chance on me, and she said, and she got me a press pass to DomCon, the Dominatrix convention that happens twice a year, once in LA and one in New Orleans. And I went to, and she gave me a list of people that she thought would be fun to talk to. And she really helped me get this whole thing going. So she's a true friend.
I like how you say she took a chance, because one of the things I was curious about was like, how were you received by a lot of these, doms and sex workers you chatted with? Because I know they don't always have the most favorable view of how media portrays them or re-edits them or quotes them.
100%.
So I definitely get some skepticism, especially in my earlier days of the show when they didn't have like a list of people I can say, well, this person did it. Back when I was a more baby podcaster, I had to just kind of hope that they would take a chance to be on the show and hope that this face wasn't going to be a shithead about it. Yeah. Because this face apparently is a long history of doing that.
It's very funny. That's one thing that Simone Justice said to me. She's like, I don't have a very good track record of talking to the media. Mm-hmm. And I said, I get it. I totally get it. But I was very, and if she didn't want to help, I would have understood. A lot of the doms I spoke with, said very politely, like, no thanks. Yeah. I wouldn't say a lot. I'd say like a good chunk, but always very politely. And some of them who didn't write back wrote back like months later saying, got lost in my email. Everyone's so busy. But
so like your email got wedged in between a guy who wanted me to kick him in the nuts and another guy who just wanted to be flogged.
Which one's going to pay and which one's going to pay them? Which one's going to just take up their time and could be a waste of time. So but she, because she just took a chance on me, that I seemed like a nice person and I was very genuine. It was, and she's a big part of the book, and she does the whole introduction for me, and she gets a special thanks to the back of the book. By going to DomCon, which was an incredible experience, and getting to sort of sit in the back of the room, and just the trust that they had in me, that I didn't, no one in the book was in the book that didn't talk to me for the book, but I just got to listen to these amazing women give workshops and listen to the conversations that the women were having. At DomCon, people meet from all over the country to see each other again. It's usually at a location, at a hotel. So there's lots of partying, lots of meeting up with people, lots of of fun stuff. So just to be there, I just felt so lucky. How did I end up in this convention center in like this Hilton, watching this incredible dominatrix give a demo of WWE style domination, and it was like, I just felt so like blessed to be there, because it was just so fascinating and cool, and watching the doms in the audience, like taking notes and their questions and all the ways they were trying to organize their own lives around their health insurance, around all the legal stuff. Like, they're not unlike it's like Star Magazine. They're just like us. Like, everyone's an entrepreneur. They're all trying to manage their branding, manage their taxes, manage their income, manage their rent, manage their expectations of themselves and others, manage bullshit in their lives. And as somebody who, I can also relate to them in certain ways, that I have never felt like I could have a life like other people's lives. They have to kind of do things their own way. This is sort of, and I always felt like I had to do things my own way, but I wasn't quite as brave as, I don't like to use the word brave, but I don't think I had I played things very safe for a long time, is what I'm saying. I stuck with a career that was not as satisfying because I was afraid. So
were you surprised at all to see like they're just like us and their job has the same bullshit my job has? Like, did that, I don't know how into the kink scene you were or weren't, but I don't know, like, were you surprised at anything you learned like that?
I mean, it's funny. Like, they're just like us, but of course they're not. Like, it's completely different. Nothing. The things that surprised me, I'm trying to think what surprised me. I think, I mean, I knew that they'd be cool and interesting and fun and have deep things to say. I didn't expect the real seriousness and just the spirituality, the spiritual aspect, the deep self-examination. I didn't expect so much heart and kindness and sweetness, I didn't, because I didn't, first of all, so you have an idea of what a Dom is, they seem very cruel and there's stereotypes you see in the media. I knew that they'd have cool things to say. I didn't know that they would say things that would like change my life, that I would come home and I'd replay the tape and I would tell my friends the things that they would say. So I didn't know that I thought it would be kind of some cool sound bites, some interesting stories. I didn't know that it would really like rock my world in the way that it did. Yeah.
And by listening to those tapes when you was rocking your world, is that how the book shifted from the workbook to some more self-examining?
Sort of. So I had I had an outline of things I wanted to kind of plug into, like you'll see the book, it's like the different lessons. But it just became so much less of a book like a workbook, like a lesson book than just, it became so much more of like a love letter, like it was a friend of mine from high school read it, and she said she was a little surprised. She says she's like, it's so earnest and sincere. And it's funny because like, I guess I'm known for being more of like a funny kind of sardonic, cynical person. Not cynical, but there's really not a lot of that in there. Like I really went in there very with like an open heart and really looking for, I'm the reader. I want to make a change in my life. So I didn't go in there with any preconceived notions of what I want. So it is a very open-eyed kind of like, hug me kind of book.
It is a blessing to do a book like that where you're not the expert on the topic, because I feel like that can remove so much ego from it, and you can really just go like, I'm here to learn,
totally,
and to have my world rocked, to have my life changed a bit. Like, if I talk to someone on the show, like I'm always prepared, like I might have a earth-shattering revelation or something. It's because like, who am I? I'm just a comedian with a fuck show. I'm not an expert on anything except on how to throw a gangbang. That I'm starting to become. I threw 4 this year. Like I was like, I'm getting this hang of it.
That would be a good story. Did you monetize it?
I'm trying to, and I've had a couple clients. I had one client that it fell through because I wasn't comfortable with her behavior.
Oh, interesting.
And then I have a client in California for when I go on this road trip. That it seems like we're gonna try to work something out.
That's interesting.
I did have to have a lawyer call because I want to make this like I want to make this a formal like fancy fulfillment service, because not just gangbangs. I've done a lot of like interesting shit that had a lot of logistics in it.
Yeah, well, you have to set up an LLC to protect yourself.
Well, there's the legal stuff of like, in theory, if the fantasies that I help coordinate for money involve other humans, that like I have to, like, let's say, because a lot of times the gangbangs I might recruit from Reddit, for example,
sure,
which gets a bad rap, but those guys, if you make them jump through enough hoops, you'll find the ones who are decent humans.
I believe it.
And they're very sweet. But he was like, in theory, if you get like the wrong enthusiastic DA, they could be like, this man is trafficking these poor young boys at this gangbang.
Interesting.
So I was like, okay, I'm putting it on the back burner, but it's something I want to make more formal and as a service. But for now, hey, private clients, behind the underground type of thing.
I think that's if people are, it's consensual and people are having fun, like what. Life is so short.
Yeah.
To me, I don't understand. But I mean, from my point of view, why that should be a problem. I mean, I guess as long as like the one person who's being banged, as long as
like so it might have to be something more like, I may have to finagle. It's more like, I will consult with you and advise and help you with the organization, but like you legally have to like make the post yourself. But like, hey, if you give me the password, like I'll sift through all the replies.
Yeah.
But also like, I think I can help people with, if you want to like have a threesome with your husband, or if you're trying to like, do various, like it wouldn't be paying me for sex, me like consulting how to make some bigger things happen. But the gangbang seems to be my bread and butter right now.
You're a liaison. You're a liaison.
A liaison. There we go. Trademark. No,
take it. It's yours. But these are the kind of business ventures that I find very fascinating.
Right.
Because because people can make it happen. You who want to do this responsibly, ethically, safely, you want everyone to have a good time.
Yeah.
That's all you want. And to make some money. Because this is what you enjoy doing. So
a lot of dick pics to sift through. I'd like compensation.
I that is that, what do they call it? That's pain and suffering.
yes.
But I think, this is the thing, which as someone who writes about business, like those are the businesses I'm interested in learning about, because there are hoops to jump through. There is a service there's a need. So why shouldn't you be allowed to do this, for people who are, no one's getting hurt, everyone's in it for the same reason. And what hoops you need to jump through, and how do you make it? How would someone like you? It's like how I made it. How do you make it? So I find this very interesting, and I didn't find any of the things I didn't see anything that was too shocking. I went to a bunch of events, and I know in the book I did a session as a sub with a friend of mine in the book, and I saw a lot of stuff that isn't in the book, because the book is very much. For the kink curious, it's
save needle play for the next book.
Yes, exactly. It's very much if say you're a kinky person and you want your family to not be as frightened of what you do, this is a good gift for them.
Yeah.
It's a good gift for a good Valentine's Day gift for someone who's kink curious, or wants to think kinkier maybe. But I didn't see too many things that were. I don't know what's shocking to me. My threshold for shocking is it's a comedy. It's very high.
Right. My threshold is very different. Like in a sex ecosphere, it's hard to shock me. So someone's like, I have a fetish, but like, it's so crazy. I'm like, bring it on. Be like, you don't understand. You don't understand. I'm like, come on, I got it. I've heard I've seen things. But I like feet. I'm like, oh, honey, it's, that's so fine. It's so normal.
There was a few things I saw nothing was terrible. It was one thing I saw that was interesting was, there was somebody, because the women were all very, obviously very protective, about shielding their clients and stories about them. They were very protective, and, their concern for them and their privacy is very important. It was interesting, the kind of men that would work with them are the ones who had a lot of money. A lot of them, really did want to experience a loss of control, have someone else control the situation. It was interesting. One person who I didn't meet, but Adam told me, was a very wealthy person who works at a tech company of some kind, and his thing was he liked to be put in cages, cage. And I was
cock cage or like a full cage?
Full cage. And I was like, well, I wonder why that is, and we were talking about it. It's like, well, I think that he might be, because my theory is that I think that he's so overwhelmed by the needs of his work. He's so overwhelmed. I think he might be a little on the spectrum. Like, I think he finds it so calming to be put in a place where you can't really, these women aren't, they have the minds of therapists, but what they do is therapeutics, not therapy. But there's a lot of real insights into, because I'm always asking why, like what makes people want to do certain things. And sometimes like, maybe it just gives them a fucking boner. Like, why do you have to like ask why about everything?
That's a great reason. Gives me a boner or makes me wet is a great reason for many to do a lot of things.
Yeah. So it was finding that it was like, asking why and then stopping, asking why and being, can't we just have a good time? Can't you just enjoy what we're doing? Can't you just enjoy the fact that something just feels good or feels bad, But yeah, I didn't see anything too shocking, because I'm pretty hard to shock. Sure. I mean, when I tell my friends the things I saw, my friends are like flabbergasted. But I don't think anything is too strange. I didn't think stand-up comedy was very strange. Like, so
if anything, it's stranger.
Yeah. So I also I found it very similar in many ways.
I do find a lot of similarities between sex work, or specifically porn, and comedy. I find like a lot of similarities that are kind of eerie. A lot of like, you kind of come up through your own thing. You got to maybe, unless someone like discovers you got to make your own content. You got to push it on social media. You got to diversify your income. So you got to do stand up or a podcast and this thing. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot interesting overlap.
Well, that's true too with the DOMs too. I also felt a lot of one thing that I felt some parallels with too is, they have their work if they do sessions with clients. They also might do some couples coaching and stuff, and then they might also do their OnlyFans, and they might do some phone stuff. Like everyone's got they might get some have like a video studio on this. Like everyone's got 1,000 hustles going on in order to just keep up. And then there's also a generational resentment, which I love. How we worked for 20 years to make things the way they are. Now there's people just coming up, they're just doing everything off Instagram. And that's a comedy thing if I've ever heard one. The YouTube comics, like Instagram comics.
The Instagram comic is just enraging.
Yeah. And that's how some of the women feel about some of the, the Instagram findom girls, it's just very, in the end, it's hard. I mean, and I have a lot of, it's just hard. I mean, the arguments are similar. The ways to get marketing attention are similar. They have a lot of the DOMs, a lot of sex workers, a lot of people who work in sex education, they struggle to get their ads accepted on Facebook and on Instagram and all these places.
I can't even get ads accepted on Facebook. The anti-sex shit is just like so absurd.
It is. And so one of my ads got rejected for an episode of Spent, and then another one with the two DOMs did not get rejected. So I don't really understand who's making these choices. That said, it's so every career has different struggles, but it was very funny coming from a publishing background and I worked at an investment startup, to go to a dominatrix convention and hear everyone talk about SEO. Because I'm like, I'll never fucking escape it.
You'll never escape SEO.
You'll never escape the importance of search engine optimization, but that's the challenge they all have because they're independent operators, and just like magazines and newspapers shut down, all the dungeons shut down. Everyone had to come up. And everyone's making less according to their Someone said to me that like the session rate hasn't gone up as nearly as much as the cost of living,
and neither has the set pay for a feature at a club.
Neither has the cost to write an article. Like to me, there's just a lot of parallels with people who want to do things their own way on their own. And you have to do a lot of advocating for yourself and to set value for yourself. Like, what am I worth? How do you ask yourself, what are my talents and skills? What are they worth? And it's not easy to have the confidence to put that out there because people will say no.
Is that a confidence you had before researching this book?
No. Wow. I think that I'm much better at it now. I feel like this book helped me. This was a good year. So I quit my job to write this book. So I had a year not just of writing this book. I wrote this book in about 6 months, but it was a lot of time spent alone, like sitting, thinking, which I haven't had in years, in a good way, not like sobbing on the sofa, but just I don't know. I hadn't really thought about what my career looked like. I've worked so hard my whole life. I always thought of myself I always thought of things that didn't work out in jobs. I never thought of my of anything as a success because I never felt like I succeeded at any job.
Really?
Yeah, I was like really hard on myself.
I met you long before this book was starting to, was a thing. And it was like, it just seemed like, yeah, she's doing things. She's making moves. Oh, she's sponsored by who? Which app? Okay. Dope.
Yeah. I saw all those things as very separate from each other. But I always, in every job, when I looked at my career, I only saw where I failed at each job. I never saw I was really, really mean.
The opportunities you didn't get.
Yeah, and just all the ways I let myself down, all the ways I didn't do well enough at the job. I was really hard on myself. And then with the podcast with Spent, I did have a sponsor, and that was incredible. But because it couldn't carry on the way I wanted it to, I started thinking about that as a failure. Like I needed some time to look at my career. It was 20 years as a whole, and before I could say no, I do deserve to ask for this much money, and if I don't, I'm insane. And people are not going to treat me with respect if I don't ask for what I'm worth. More than what I'm worth, and then I'll take a little bit less. But it's not just the advice. Like always ask for as much as you can without laughing. That's like really good advice. But if you don't mean it, what are you even asking for? Mm-hmm. So to take time into your career and write down your skills and people who've worked with you and what you've accomplished, and really take a look at it as like a volume of work. That's the only good thing. Again, about getting older is so great because you actually have something to show for yourself, if you can. So I found all that really helpful, talking to the women about how you just have to say, I have a very special set of skills. I've worked really hard. I've trained hard. I know that I'm really good at what I do, and not everyone can do what I do. And that's a really great way to look at what you do. And but even then, a guy will be like, well, that's way too expensive. Forget it.
Well, too bad, dude.
Then you have to say, too bad, dude. It can't, but if you're a certain kind of person or you have a bad day, you could be like, God, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe things are changing. Maybe, and then you can start to wobble. And sometimes that you have to pay your bills. So you can be all high and mighty, not high and mighty. You can have your rate. Like, I will not get out of bed for X amount of money, but sometimes you do need to, because you need to pay the bills.
And you need to let yourself take the thing that pays less if that's what you need to, if you need that month. You got to let yourself do it without devaluing yourself overall.
Yes.
Be like, I am taking this even though I know I'm worth more, but I happen to need this money right
Exactly.
now. Or I'm trying to go on this vacation, so I'm going to pick up this extra thing, even though I know I'm worth more.
Absolutely.
As long as it's in your head,
You just have to
you
keep
value.
track.
Yeah.
Just keep track of what you do and just know that you haven't devalued yourself or devalued your worth. Just being like, I need to take on this bullshit project because I need to get bills paid this month. But going forward, but I never thought about things that way. I just always thought, people don't. No one gets paid for doing that, or no one's ever going to give you money for that, or well, that's how much the base pay is, blah blah blah. And I just took other people's word for it. It's very easy when you're a writer or a creative to kind of fall into a kind of a sad place of letting other people's misery kind of drag you down and kind of let them set the pace of and let them set the rate. Let people's unhappy, because everyone's...
They know what it costs. They know what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, and they think people are going to be angry at them for asking for more. And I mean, if there's a piece that offers an article that says it's $200, if you ask for $1,000, they're probably going to say no.
But if you ask for $250,
but if you ask for $250 or ask for $300, and you say, "Listen, I've written about," and you really put some data in there, like I've written about this before. I've got a lot of connections. Like like if can we make it? And don't even ask, but can we make it $300?
Yeah.
Just stop taking all like the apologies out because you're not sorry. Like, I'm sorry to ask. Like, you're not sorry. I've never once, when I've said I'm sorry to ask, I've never been sorry to ask. I just didn't know how to speak with authority. So, that was a lot of interesting things I learned in the book too, just listening to women talk and just speaking very directly, like kindness, honesty, and directness, just asking for what you want. People aren't going to hate you for asking what you want. If they do hate you, then avoid them. What kind of person, if someone says to you, like, listen, you're asking for a little too much money. You always want $300 an article. I just think that you are just way in over, you're just too big for your britches. Like,
it's not getting this many clicks, whatever.
Then it's not enough money to continue working for. And you're better off taking a hike anyway. Because unless they're doing it, like, that's the whole thing about feeling powerless and power dynamics. Like they have the power, but you have the power too. You can also just walk away, especially if something's over such a small amount of money like that. Like when it's a lot of money, you have to kind of figure out what to do. But when people say like, "Oh, I don't want to ask for $300 over $200," like, what are you doing? Like, why are you letting they're getting your content for nothing? You're a bargain. Do you know how cheap you're the last thing I think about on their bottom line. You're gonna get paid in 3 months. You're gonna get paid net 90. Ask for more money. They don't even know who you are, but people are just very afraid. And I think women, I hope, hopefully things are changing. We're just not raised. When we go to college, none of us actually, men or women or any of us, no one tells us how to ask for money or in a way that's respectful and in a way that shows that we deserve to earn it. No, we don't tell us how to negotiate a raise, negotiate a salary, how to negotiate for how we should be treated at work. One of the things in the book that I really liked was one of the doms, she not on social media. Her name was Mistress Ava Zhang. She and I talked about a code of conduct, the idea of having a personal code of conduct, and like if you work at a company, like McDonald's has a code of conduct, you will not discriminate against others. You will, wash your hands after you will not
dip your balls in milkshake,
not
stuff
dip your balls
like that.
In the milkshake, you will, right. But why don't we have them for ourselves, for how we can expect to treat others and be treated? And I gave it a lot of thought. And if you had that, it sounds corny. It sounds like a self-helpy thing, but you just think about how much shit we eat. Like, and how we let some people give us shit and other people we don't let them get. Like, why can't we just kind of hold? And so if you have a boss that treats you like shit, you have to say to yourself, well, he's paying my bills. I can accept this amount of shit eating. But then you have to ask yourself, well, how much is it worth it? You have to just, because how, like, I'm trying to, I don't know. I just don't think we don't allow ourselves to ask what we're worth in any respect. Like, people just allow themselves to be treated very poorly by their family members, by their coworkers, by their bosses. And even though you might have to eat more shit at work than you do in your relationship because your job is paying you a salary, that's why you're allowing yourself to be treated a certain way at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not dissimilar to knowing what you're worth in a relationship and what you won't settle for, and also like where, the wiggle room of like, okay, I will accept this in exchange for that, or last night I literally had to walk away from someone on the street who I've been like seeing for a few months. I'm going to take myself out of this because I don't deserve this treatment. All I've done is try to help you and defend you and make you feel better and make you giggle or something throughout this night.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to accept this amount of treatment. Now, will I accept a little bit because I know you're in a rattled mood?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. But like, there's a threshold at which I don't accept that, and I think a lot of us need to learn like what our thresholds are in relationships of when we walk away from a conversation, when we walk away from the relationship.
Sure.
And that's I think it's the same skill set and there's the same self-confidence you got to have
100%.
to know when to do that.
Yeah, to know when it's time to walk away and to be like, there's only so much I can do here. But if you're nice, like chronically nice like me, I feel terrible. I'm getting better about that. But the thing I liked about the book too, because again, like talking to the doms about relationships and about, well, what do you do? A lot of the book is about relationships. So what if, you're been with somebody like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you decide that things have you really want to change in the marriage, whether it's a sexual change or any kind of a change. How do you bring it up? And how you can be with somebody for so long and they can you can have food poisoning with them, have a family with them, you can, and yet you just can't, there's so much you can't tell them, and don't want to tell them. So that ended up being a really big part of the book too, is like, well, how do you express to some person you love that you want to try something new sexually and why that's so hard? And that was a really, really interesting section for me. And some of the advice that I got from the doms was so practical, but it was actually useful advice.
This concerns come in like via their clients, like they don't know how to ask so and so for this, so they go to them. And, okay, sorry.
So just a lot of them work with couples. Sometimes like a couple might want to go to them versus going to a sex therapist. And some of them have degrees in coaching and whatnot. But one of the pieces of advice that Lucy Sweetkill gave was don't have a talk about your sex life in bed. Don't talk about making a change in bed. Make sure that you do it at the kitchen table when you're dressed, because everyone's naked and they're in bed and they're vulnerable. Everyone's tired
and chemicals are going. That.
Like it's just if you want to have a conversation about opening up the marriage or trying something different or whatever it is, like just don't do it in a place where you're physically vulnerable.
Yeah, dudes, when she says like, when you say we should have a threesome while you're fucking, she's like, oh yeah, totally. That's not a sign to go start searching. Like,
yes.
Follow that up. Hey, did you mean that back there? Was that just hot talk?
Yes, definitely. The best conversations, the ones that stick, are the ones that are in broad daylight, in clothes at the kitchen table, perhaps, but that's how you, but if you really want to make yourself be heard, and so that was an interesting thing to me, because most people think if you want to bring up something to change your sex life, you do it after sex. Like, hey, like, it would have been much better if like we were doing something different, but that makes so much sense when you say it out loud like that. But when do most of us have our conversations with our lovers about sex is in bed? And then people go to sleep angry, so and when the idea of being with someone who you love for a long time, who you don't want to blow things up with, but wanting more, is such an interesting topic, because you don't want to give up the good thing that you have, but are you wrong to want more?
And I think that goes, and it's both for whether it's you're a dom trying to set your price, or you're a freelance writer, or you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
I think my fear, my self-conscious whatever nonsense is I know I'm worth something. I don't know what the number is, and then I have the fear of being wrong. So being wrong, giving my price to someone for, like, say, an ad, or being wrong in where I think I'm going to draw my boundary in a relationship. So I don't want to like be wrong and then like walk away from a relationship when actually I could have maybe taken a little bit more, or I could have done that gig for that price.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I know my self-consciousness is not that I'm worth something, but not like I'm worried about being wrong about how I valued myself.
Sure. And I think, this is a slightly on a different topic, but because I think this book is for anybody, but I guess, you think about your peers, sometimes we feel like, oh, I should just be lucky. I should just be grateful. I'm so lucky. I should just be grateful. I should be happy that I have like 2 kids, or happy that I have like a husband, or happy that I have a wife, or happy that my job is okay. And you don't want to rock the boat. Then you have all these secrets inside you, and you wish and you long for and you want, and you're so afraid of alienating the person that you're with. And that's really scary. And that's really real. Like, it's easy for me to say, just ask for what you want, but you have to face that person when they look at you possibly horrified, or when they cry, or, so how do you ask for something that you want, and how can you receive the response? And how can you find some place where you can maybe meet in the middle? Because this is, so one of the sex therapists I talked to for the book, she's not a dom, although I think she was for a period of time. Her name was Dr. Gloria Brame. Okay. Dr. Gloria Brame. She
real doctor, or like her character's a doctor?
She's a real doctor. Okay. She's a PhD.
You never know.
She's a PhD, and the thing she told me for the book about relationships and long-term relationships and wanting to make changes, and then were incredibly profound to me, because usually if you're with someone you love, you want to try to do some things to make them happy, right? And ideally you don't want the other person to be doing things that they don't want to do just to make you happy, but somewhere there could be this overlap that where you guys can find some area of sexual understanding or something that you can start with. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of trust that has to be there beforehand. But these are things people don't even begin to talk about, and you think you can be with somebody for so long. Again, you could watch your wife give birth. You can see people's most intimate moments. But when it comes to wanting something that could be outside the marriage or something that's different, everyone lives in their own world. And that's how do you reconnect with the person you love, who you built a life with? That's the scary, unsexy stuff that everyone thinks about.
Yeah. What have you already found yourself, if anything, enacting from what you've been learning from these doms? Like, was it just the body stuff and the relationship with food, or did you find other skill sets that you're now using already?
Everything in the book. Everything in the book is stuff that I do.
There's a lot of you're saying there's a lot of first person stuff in the book.
There's some first person stuff in the book, but even the stuff that I have changed the way that I communicate with people. Mm-hmm. My emails are much more direct. I don't apologize. I say thank you for your patience versus apologizing for being late.
Has that, in terms of the emails, like stern emails, I mean, not stern, but direct, have you been able to receive direct emails differently because now you have an understanding that this person's not being rude, they're being direct?
Yeah, I don't read into things as much anymore.
Gotcha.
I just keep things moving. But at the same time, even though I'll say thank you for your patience, I will be aware of the fact that it did take me too long to get back to them. I can not apologize, but also, do better. Mm-hmm. So I'm much more direct in my communications. I know what I don't want to do for work in 2020. I know that I know what I cannot do. I made a list of things, like, not even that I won't do. I'm not too good for them. I just know I won't do them well. And I would only be doing them for the money, and I could see catastrophe. So I made a list of things that I won't do, but a list of things that I will and I'm excited to do. So that was really helpful, just actually putting in a plan and saying, that it's okay for me to say no to certain things.
What are some of those things?
Just there's certain, when you do consulting projects, like I'll either need to be a writer that reports to somebody or lead a project. I can't be like a middleman person. I can't lead a project within a larger project because it's too many meetings and things. I need to kind of I need to be able to do my own thing and just check in and hand things in. It's like, how can I be my best self? How can I not, if I always worry that I fail at every job, how can I set myself up for not feeling that way more? And the answer is I can do that. I can choose to not take on jobs where I'm likely not to fail,
Right.
So that's been really helpful. I've changed the way. So I had an amazing interview with the Baroness, the latex designer in the East Village. She did a lot of the costumes for Pose. She does stuff for Beyonce. She's done a million things for Lady Gaga. She's been designing latex fashion and couture for 20 years. She's unbelievable. And I met her for the book, and I interviewed her, and she talked to me about how to dress for power. And I literally, after I met with her, I went home and I cleaned out my entire closet.
What is dressing for power, or is that also in the book?
It's in the book. It's in the book.
I'm assuming. I think pantsuits, but I also don't know a variety of clothing.
It wasn't even about the articles of clothing. It was about going through your closet and like, it's just like it's like go through your closet and
what makes you feel powerful.
It's just also, but what is each article of clothing like? Why do we hold on to, like, I had a pair of shoes that never fit, but I held on to them because I paid too much money for them. So they were just there in my closet. And she said, you can just go through your closet and just get rid of all the stuff that you're holding on to for like that make you feel shitty, you know, like, oh, like they used to fit and now they don't, or that looked good on me when I was 19. So I'm going to keep it because it reminds me, you know, just think about like who you are now, what makes you feel powerful now, as opposed to the things that may have made you feel okay then that aren't part of your life now. She's talked a lot about, you know, harnessing your sexuality through your clothing and how you can't control how people perceive you. People have to pick up what you're putting down, or they won't. And if you go in a room where you feel as all your energy is on all cylinders, people are going to pick up on that. And if you're wearing like a pantsuit or wearing something that doesn't feel like you, people will sense that, and because you're going to have a hard time.
One of my favorite parts of The Artist's Way was just clearing out. Once we get to the chapter where she says, "Yeah, clear out the closet, clear out the drawers," I was like, "Oh, this is dope." I threw out T-shirts I've had since high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
But it's also hard to do. These are like memories and they're parts of you, and it can feel like you're throwing out parts of yourself, you know.
Well, part of me is like, oh, these are memories of when I was thinner and fit in this shirt.
But those are all big things. Like, I mean, like a lot of the stuff I threw away, I had like stuff from when I was like a size 6, stuff when I was like a size 14. Like I got rid of so much, like bags and bags of stuff I donated because I just wanted to start again. Like, who am I now? And what do I want to look like now? What do I want the world to see now? And that was a big question too. So that was something that, she was great too. She put me in like a latex skirt and she like had me like, she got me all done up. And that was a very life altering moment too. I was like, well, I was like, I could never wear latex. Actually, I actually could definitely wear latex, and I hope to wear more in the future. But that was a big one that changed. Just a lot of like just being kinder to myself and just trying to it sounds so corny, like self-care and kindness, but you just like my husband's away for a few days, you know, he's with my in-laws. I have some time to myself. And the old days I'd feel so guilty. It's like, oh, like I should be with my husband or oh, like I should be productive. I was just saying should all the time. And I can't tell you how much better I feel like just not caring. Like, this is my time. I wrote this book. I quit my job to do it. I have other projects in my life that will happen, but this is a big deal. I am spending time promoting the book, writing about the book, doing all this stuff. This is my own time. And I don't think I would have I think I would have been apologizing for it this time last year. I would have been like, I'm so sorry, bud. But I didn't even mean I was sorry. Yeah. I just wanted.
You just don't want them to hate you for doing what's important for you.
And that's the thing, the whole idea. Like, I don't want anyone to hate me. But then I think, do I really worry that people are going to hate me? And if they were to hate me, like, why would I want to know them anyway? But I just have these fears of like, I don't want anyone to be mad at me. I don't want to be mad at me. Also, when I worked at a startup, you know, I worked at startups and I worked with some incredibly intelligent, like female data engineers and data scientists and people who and they all said to me, when I told them I was writing the book, all the women got it. They all got it. And they said, tell me how I can ask for what I want without sounding like a bitch. This is 2019. And this is
still worried about being called a bitch. You're going to get called a bitch. It's okay.
Well, there's either that or just like, what are you doing that you think is actually, like, what is bitchy? Like, what does that mean? Is it because you're saying what you want to happen? Is it because you're saying that something in your team isn't working? Is it saying that, now we just talked a lot about what it means in the book, you're a bitch, whatever, if you're unreasonable, if you're cruel, if you're horrible to your employees, if you're disgraceful to work with, like, yeah, you're a pretty bad person. But if you just want people to do things for you that make sense to the goals of the company and you're watching out for yourself and keeping your team in mind, you're never a bitch. Why would that be bitchy in 1,000 years? But we still have this filter. And the more we say to ourselves, like, I just want to say, or the more we say, put these things out, the worse you're going to feel. And if you're a woman, when oftentimes these women are the only women in the room, you're going to always feel a little strange. So you just have to eat it and you just have to just say it and just keep moving. I know that men kind of want to be afraid of you a little bit and just own that too. Like, own the fact that they might not want it, that you might not be at their level, that they should be a little bit afraid of you. But that's fucked up too, because you wish you could just all be in the same room solving a problem. Right. But yeah, that's something I also realized. I didn't quite realize how many men were so in awe of powerful women until this year too. I had a very, I was very, when you write a book about this kind of thing, a lot of men will come talk to you. And I'm a married woman, but I got a lot of attention from men.
What were men asking?
just
And this is like men you know in your life, or like dudes on the internet seeing that you're doing it?
everybody. Just like nothing disrespectful, really. Just like, I think it's so cool. I think that's so amazing. Or just, tell me what you do for work. Oh, that's so incredible. That's so amazing. Just all this sounding very impressed. Although, well, sure, probably they were getting a boner in some way with like my achievements versus like, it was just very interesting. It's like, wow, like it's like 20 guys in their 20s and 30s being like, wow, you've accomplished so much and that's so amazing. Like it was just very opposite to like growing up.
But does that feel at all like condescending? Like, oh, well, I never thought you would have all this.
No,
No,
I didn't feel anything. I just said, well, I said, thanks. I said, I hope you enjoy the book. And I just left it, which also felt kind of great to me because I didn't have to, and I don't have to engage with it. I just said like, thank you for reaching out. That's really sweet. I didn't buy the book. It just, as you grow up, you just think that I always thought it was cute and everything, but I don't know. You always think as though you don't look like what everyone, it never looked like what you think you're supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And I was always very funny and weird and kind of an oddball at all my jobs. And it's just very strange now. It's when you get older, it's suddenly you're being appreciated for all the things that you felt unappreciated for. And then you feel, where was I for me all those years? Why couldn't I feel the way I feel now when I was in my 30s? But the answer is that's life. No one does.
What do you have any tips or suggestions, like best practices for journalists who want to reach out to, whether it's dominatrix or any sort of sex worker, to do it in a respectful way? Because I think there's some who are shitty, and then I think there's some who, and I used to be one of them, and probably still make gaffes from time to time, I'm sure. But they mean well, and they just don't realize what they're saying, why what they're saying is kind of not chill.
Yeah.
So do you have any best practices for media people who want to reach out to sex workers for an interview, for a project, for whatever? That's
a great question, and that's something I was thinking about today, because so many of the DOMs I work with would be incredible sources for a number of articles. Whether it's about it could be anything from legalization versus criminalization to about relationship coaching, to fashion. They could they have just a different point of view on all the same stuff that we have questions on. And I would recommend a ton of them as sources to my friends. I think the question, it sounds really dumb in this day and age, but like, do your homework, like look at how they like to talk about themselves. Just do some industry research, see if you have a mutual friend with this person. Don't just cold email them if you can. And just get the lowdown and just be a little bit extra sensitive. I don't think that's wrong. I think I definitely, when I was writing the book, I definitely said, I'm new to this. If there's ever anything I say that is, please correct me. But I think that coming from a place, just think about why you're writing the piece and don't come with any preconceived notions on what people are like or what they're going to say. Because no two DOMs think alike on anything. No two people think alike on anything. Just because one DOM supports this doesn't mean another DOM is going to support that too. Just think about why you want that person to put themselves out there for you. Why are they're not just there to kind of dress up your piece, to be kind of like a kinky ornament to your piece. Just figure out why you want them there, why their expertise is important. Just like any other article, if you see something they've done in the past, you would reference that in the email you send to them. Like, one of the DOMs I reached out to, I saw her in, she was quoted in a magazine called Quartz. It's actually a business magazine. And I found her there and I said, hey, I read what you wrote about negotiating in the workplace. And I read your website and I read your mission statement and you sound incredible. Is there any way that I could buy you a cup of coffee and ask you a few questions? Then this is the project I'm working on. And that's what I did. And people were pretty nice because they showed that I was interested in more than just like, what can you do for me? And of course you always go to them always buy them a cup of coffee. Don't make them do any work. Don't make anybody do any work for you if you're asking them for a favor. And these are all Lindsay's tips. But I think that's true. Just figure out what you're asking. If you're not sure, ask someone if what you're going to be asking is inappropriate.
Yeah. I would also throw in if you want to write about sex work, don't sensationalize the sex work at least at a bare minimum. Because even if you're going to be shitty and do it in your article, don't do it in the email when you're pitching them, because they don't think what they do is sensational, or some sort of like absurd thing. So don't be like, we're doing this thing. It's like, isn't it crazy that like sex workers also sometimes do X totally normal thing. Like,
Right.
so, also think about how you're approaching. And I've definitely, like I pissed off Melissa Gira Grant by accident, like a very, long time ago. Cause just the way I approached her in the email was not, appropriate, which at 25 years old, or 24 or whatever, I didn't know. So it's like, approach with respect to the job, not just to them. Be like, I was respectful of them. No, you got to respect what they do for work
100%.
to be able to even speak about it respectfully. Otherwise, if you think like this person's nice, but sex works for like dumb whores, that's always going to be the subtext of everything you're saying. It's going to ooze out.
That's a really good point. Be like, you're really smart because you've written a book, but you're different than the other ones.
That's how I felt about the first porn star I interviewed, Sarah J, where it was like, fun episode and we get along, but it's just when I was 20, I was freshly turned 25. I saw a news item for something called Team BJ2.
Okay.
I woke up the morning of the World Cup final, and apparently Sarah J did this thing called Team BJ a few times, where it was like, I'm gonna pick a team to win this championship. If that team wins, I'm gonna blow all my Twitter followers.
Okay.
Which what really is more like it's fuck a fan style porn, and it's more like she doesn't have to pay for talent, which is actually brilliant, because they have to pay for their own testing and come out and do a video and be willing to get the blowjob on camera, but she'll blow all the fans willing to meet those parameters.
Okay.
And I was not well versed in like sex work stuff or porn stuff or anything really. I was, an idiot. But I woke up and it says like, oh, Team Germany is in the World Cup final today, so Team BJ2 is still on. I just saw like on Twitter, and I looked into it. I was like, wow, that's a really smart marketing thing.
Right.
Oh, we're going to pick 4 World Cup teams. One wins, we blow a bunch of dudes. They're brilliant. It's brilliant. We're going to grow our Twitter followers. Right. And because one of the rules, like you had to follow them both on Twitter. And again, back when I was a moron, I was like, that's brilliant, man. This is one of the smart porn stars.
Right.
Right. And then when I sat down with her, like I learned about all like the different ways they had to like, she had to diversify her income with the texting and the sexting and the selling this and whatever. And I go like, oh wow, she's really got it. Or some of that, like I was like, it never even occurred to me that porn stars could be smart, because that's where I was at that time. And I think if I go listen to that now, I'm sure you could hear hints of that in my language, speaking respectfully this one, but like what I felt about her industry was different than how I was treating her.
I think just never assume anything. I've never once talked to a sex worker who hasn't surprised me. Mm-hmm. I've never had every preconceived notion I've ever walked in, and we all do. It's just never what you think. People are surprising, and they're interesting, and they're weird, and their stories are never what you think they're going to be. And that's the best thing about being a reporter. Like, why bother doing this for a living if you have the story written in your head already? Exactly. So, right. So I also think that there is a lot of things I've gotten in life, and I'm very lucky, is because I believe I'm very, very gracious, and I'm very grateful. And I think just being extra, and you can't fake it. You can't fake kindness, in my opinion. So I am, so if you do want to take the time to reach out to somebody for your story or article, just really figure out why you're doing this, and and also never talk to anybody like you feel bad for them. Never be like, we just wanted your point of view because, you're an exploited sex worker. Like, just like make sure you know like what you're doing, like, and make sure just make sure, like, ask a friend if because especially if you're writing about sex work and you assume that every person in sex work is exploited, or every person who is a sex worker is being trafficked, or it's anti-feminist to be a sex worker, or it's feminist to be a sex. Like, don't come in with your own ideas, because you never know what anyone thinks of anything. And that's when things get interesting, is when they say, actually, like I'm a porn star and I'm not a feminist, and here's why. Like, that's a far more interesting conversation you're going to have than just asking questions. Just be curious. Yeah. And being curious, be gracious, do your homework, and don't be afraid to say, if something I say, it's,
also just acknowledge where your ignorance will
acknowledge be. And just throw yourself on there, and always follow up with a thank you. Always follow up with a thank you. Fantastic. And I think I don't know. It's very hard to explain why this book means so much to me and why it's so terrifying promoting it. It's a very kinky book, and even though I have some of my ideas of sex have changed because of this book, and that is sort of interesting. Was one as well. I never thought of myself as a person who was more of a dominant type person, like sexually, or bedroom, boardroom. And as I've evolved, like I am, and that's really exciting and interesting. I never would have thought that in my early 20s. My early 20s, someone said something to me that was so great that sometimes we lock ourselves into the kind of sex we like based on the first great sex we ever had. So if you have I had really great sex in my early 20s with this one great boyfriend, and I think that's what I like all the rest of my life. And it's not true. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We don't like the same foods we like when we were in our apartment. We don't like any of the same things. We like the same music. But it's not when you're married, it's very hard to think about those sort of changes, It's so that was interesting that, when I was researching the book, because clearly I wrote the book because I wanted to hang out with Doms for a reason. I mean, obviously, I wanted to.
9-year-old you was so happy.
Yes. And I was in the room, and I was at, and even though like I'm figuring out what I like sexually, and everyone is kinky in their own way, I definitely was like, oh, like I get this. This makes sense to me now. And looking at seeing the women at events I went to who were in more of the submissive roles, I totally get it. But I was like, that's very much not for me now, and that's very funny to me. I was like, wow, things have like really changed. And that felt great to have recognized like such a big evolution in myself. I was like, wow, and that's a part of getting older that's so amazing. It's like, wow, like me at 40 is totally different than me at 20. Like that's so exciting. And
well, I was going to ask, before you continue on the difference with the age stuff, is if you're down to do a little like 10-20 minute bonus episode.
Sure.
I'm curious some of these revelations you're having on 40 versus 20, and also some of the stuff you alluded to about like communication and marriage stuff around the comedy. Sure. But for now, I would say, where can people find you and find the book?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can definitely find me on Twitter. That's sort of my favorite. It's Lindsay Goldwert.
Lindsay with an A or an E? Lindsay Goldwert.
And you can subscribe to Spent Podcast. It's we just brought it back. It's talking about money with we just did a Sex and Money miniseries. We have
Stoya is one of your guests. That's a great
Stoya.
one.
She was fantastic. I spoke to these two incredible dominatrixes, Dia Domina Dynasty and Lucy Sweetkill, who appear very prominently in the book, and an economist and a sex toy CEO. So that's Spent
Alex Fine from Dame.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Alex Fine from Dame. She was great. And you just follow me at Lindsay Goldwert on Twitter or Spent Podcast on Twitter.
And go get the book, Bow Down.
Yes, it's out on January 14th. Pre-order it. It is a great gift for Valentine's Day. Or for anyone you love.
I mean, right. The way you've described it, it sounds like it's a good book for my mom. It's
a book for your aunt.
Well, my mom, who's got like the new, she's a new like real estate agent type, and she's very gung ho about it. Very big on Instagram, apparently, is her new thing. And I'm like, Mom, go, help with your negotiating.
Is she someone that's a little? Is she?
Well, she's a late in life career person because of a long marriage, and then after a divorce, she was like, I think I'm gonna do real estate.
She would be put off by kinky content.
No, I bought my youngest sister a couple years ago a copy of The Ethical Slut because she was.
That's a great book.
Great book. She was still in college. I wanted to try to expose her to some sex positivity, and I like how it has like a glossary of terms right up front.
That's a great book.
Yeah, thought. Kelly apparently didn't touch it. I came home like 3 weeks later just to like visit, and I saw my mom. I didn't announce I was home. I opened the door, and my mom's on the couch in the living room reading The Ethical Slut. And I'm like, okay,
that's amazing. Yes, buy it for your mom. It's all about making peace with yourself and about how to think, and it's filthy. It's heartwarming. It's
fantastic.
Like me.
Patreon people, you're going to hear this bonus episode tomorrow, but for now, why don't you say goodbye to everyone else?
Thank you so much for listening. It was so nice to be here.
You know what really affirms the fuck out of me? 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. This one came in on New Year's Eve from Tex Mia, and it just says, I know I'm a female, but you're hilarious. I could not stop laughing. I have MS also, and I'm outrageously horny, and you made it worse. Thank you very much. Well, Tex Mia, I hope... I hope the aggravated horniness does not aggravate your MS. I'm glad you're digging the pod. And I hope you all enjoyed my chat with Lindsay. Go get the book, Bow Down. You can pre-order it right now, and it hits all bookshelves on January 14th. So that's next Tuesday. Of course, go follow her on the social media. I know you're following me, right? Because you're a good boy or a good girl or a good NB. All right? I'm on Twitter at @TheBillyPresida. I'm slinging jokes over there. I'm on Instagram at BillyIsPresida, tossing out thirst traps left and right. And you can go like the Man Whore Podcast Facebook page where the intern Sophia is dropping dank, sex-positive memes almost daily. Want to tell me something privately, maybe something a little bit longer than a tweet? Shoot me an email with your comments, your questions, your titty pictures, your outrages at manwhorepod@gmail.com. You know, if this show has meant a lot to you, if this show holds a special place in your heart, this is a great time to let me know. Especially because I'm about to drive around the country for almost 2 months, so I'm gonna have a lot of free time to read emails. By the way, if you have a couch I can crash on, hit me up. Next week, as long as nothing weird happens, I'm gonna be having on one of my past partners. Let's just call her a threesome whisperer. Can't wait to share with y'all next week, everybody. Stay slutty.